Anyhow, does anyone know the mushroom experiment that they made with marshmallow? I'm sorry. I'm saying, look at me, I'm on the mushrooms. The marshmallow experience they did with kids. Anybody heard of it before?
No.
So they took a group of kids, and they told them, they put marshmallows in front of them, and they said,
I know.
if you eat it now, you'll only get one. If you wait another 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is, I'll give you a whole bunch of them. And there are kids that ate it right away, of course, but there are kids who actually waited. And here, if you look at this piece of paper, it says children who are able to resist temptation were followed for decades after the marshmallow experience. And what did they show? They showed better grades, higher test scores, higher income, lower body mass index, meaning they were thinner, better social functioning, greater intelligence, more self-control when frustrated, greater ability to resist temptation, more focus, less distractibility, greater self-reliance, meaning that they can rely on themselves, more trust in their own judgment, less easily rattled and disorganized, greater resilience in the face of setbacks, meaning if something bad happened to them, they are not as upset. Greater ability to handle stress. Greater likelihood of reaching long-term goals. Fewer addictive behaviors. Greater ability to create and maintain positive relationships.
Okay.
So why is that the case? Why is it that...
Question.
Yeah.
How long takes this lesson? One time, 2 times?
Oh, okay, they did it once, the marshmallow thing.
Once.
They did it one time, and they followed these kids for decades to see how they grow up and what happened to these kids. So
Only
again,
one time?
the kids, yes, only one time, because in other words, the kids were able to show self-restraint. When a child is able to show self-restraint or self-discipline, that means that they have a higher IQ maybe, they have more resilience, they're able to deal with things. And what's the reason that they could? What's the reason that they can deal with stress a lot better? What's the reason that they can do things in a different, complete way than the kids that have the temptation automatically?
Patience?
Why do they have patience? Like, what is there behind it that they actually have patience? That means that discipline, right? But why do they have discipline? Because we have receptors in our cells. And every time something happens, it connects to us and says, this happened because X, Y, and Z. An example would be if a person was fed... I would say actually this guy, it's a real story, somebody who's about 80 or 90 years old, when he came to Israel originally, there was hunger, and all they had to eat was sweet potatoes and carrots. What color is that? Orange. Every time after that he saw something orange, he couldn't eat it. Because he was eating that orange so often that in his mind, orange meant hunger. So this is what happens to all of us. When we have something happen when we're very small, instead of saying, okay, so what had happened? What do? We say, we connect it to something within ourselves that for the rest of our lives we're thinking that way. And this is what you were saying about the article. Right. You were saying about the article. It's something that happens. So how do we get out of it? It's not so easy to get out of it. Because genuinely, deep down, we are all a part of God. We all have a core part to us. These are all the things that we build as we grow up, little by little by little. So look at the second paper. We're easily addicted to stress, worry, jealousy, anger, and a myriad of other emotions and emotional responses. This happens because of the peptidal battle taking place within you every moment of your life. Each of the billions of tiny cells in your body has hundreds of receptors of the circle external membrane. Each receptor is designed to accept a particular peptide like a lock and a key. The peptides seek out and attach themselves to the receptors, thus supplying the cell with particular emotion and incentive to respond in a particular way. So when we get connected to something emotional, like an example would be, when I'm upset, what do? I eat chocolate. And every time I'm upset, I continue to eat chocolate because I know that if I eat chocolate, I feel better. So that is my receptacle holding on in my cell, holding on to that belief that if I eat the chocolate, I will feel better because I've always done it. The cells are continually being fed the same peptide again and again and again. So each time the cell splits, there will be even more of those types of receptors on both of the new cells. By habitual living in a certain emotional state and habitually reacting with one emotional pattern, you will reinforce it every time, again and again and again. So let's take the idea, this is too difficult for me. The addiction to that thought has forced your cells to morph, and they now depend on a particular peptide for sustenance. What's the sustenance? This is too difficult for me. Our very cells demand that chemical fix. The first step in stopping this constantly growing demand for that poison is to become the objective observer. So what happens? Observe those thoughts. Pay attention to all the thoughts that come into your brain. The minute you become that observer, who is the observer in us?
The person that aside, right?
Yeah, but who's that observer that's in us?
God.
That watches. It's a part of God. It's us, but a part of God. It's the part of us that's our essence. That's the best, most important part of us. Who is the you who's in the driver's seat? This is your soul, your neshama, the eternal part of you. It's not just your neshama, but it's a part of Moses, a part of Moshe Rabbeinu within us. It is the one that wants us to get out of our slavery. Limitations, exactly. Out of our slavery. This is the part of us that's working overtime, but we're not listening to it. Why? Because we have all these ideas for many, many years that we are paying attention to. We are not paying attention to our own Moshe Rabbeinu that's within us that wants to take us out of this slavery. The next one. All emotional and physical habits can be traced back to this outgoing chemical relationship. Nothing exists without your mind. Take time to exercise your mind. The mental stimulation will keep you sharp. If you put this information into practice, you will start to decrease these receptors for emotions which do not serve you. So in other words, the only thing that can help us, where is the nefesh elokis, that godly soul, found? Where's it found? In our body.
In your mind.
In the mind, exactly. Where is the animal soul found? In your heart. So if we're overcoming our mind, overcoming our heart, what's going to happen? This is going to be a lot easier. So in other words, get into your mind and stop for a second and say to yourself, I am the observer. Pay attention to all these silly thoughts that keep coming through your mind. Coming from where? Coming from your heart. These are the silly things that come from your heart. So by working on both sides of the psychological equation together, focusing on what you want to experience and removing from your focus anything you don't want to experience, little by little, you will get to your goal. Why did I bring this in here? Because this is so connected to what we're going to learn now in our class for Rosh Chodesh. So first I want to go over this idea. First of all, I want to let you know that this was from Miriam Adahan. This is, I got from her. And I want to connect it to our class that we're going to study right now. So, happy Rosh Chodesh, everybody. And this month is the month of Iyar, which actually, the acronym for the month of Iyar, which is Aleph, Yud, Yud, Resh, is Ani. The Yud, Yud is for Hashem's name, and the Resh is for Rofecha, your healer. So this is the month of healing. So anybody that has any sort of difficulty in their life that they need to be healed from, this is the month of healing. This is our beginning of working on our emotions through what? Through our mind and our nefesh elokis, our godly soul, as we talked about just now. Now, let's go on. Looking back, even before we get to the month of Iyar, 2 days ago was Koach Nisan, which is the 28th of Nisan, the strength of Nisan. What happened on this day? The Lubavitcher Rebbe, the year that he got his stroke, he said, actually, when it was one of the last sichas, the last talks of the Rebbe, he said, I did everything I could do to bring Mashiach. Now I'm leaving it up to you. So it went from the Rebbe as a Nasi, as a leader of a generation, and he threw it into us. Meaning, we have that Moshe Rabbeinu, that leader in us, that could bring Mashiach, that can change the world. Not just on a personal level, but on a global level. But of course, today we will be working on our personal level. And the going on to this month, the 2nd of Iyar is the Rebbe Maharash's birthday, which we know the Rebbe Maharash is famous for saying Lechatchila Ariva, if you can't jump over something. To begin with, if you want to go somewhere and something is blocking you, to begin with, jump over. In other words, don't go under, don't go around, jump over right away. This is the easiest way to do it. Because jumping over is the way we're going to get somewhere. If we're just stuck in our little place and we're not using our minds to really observe and actually take care of our emotions, we need to jump for it. We need to go forward. We need to get over it as quickly as possible. And that's why I think that this month of Iyar is so connected to the idea of jumping over. So let's start getting our cures and jumping over. And then we get to Lag BaOmer, which is the day that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was passed away. That's number one. And number two, the students of Rabbi Akiva, who we're going to talk about in a few minutes, they were dying, and they stopped dying on this day. And we will explain in a moment exactly how that is connected. So now what we're going to do is we're going to explore this idea of working on our own essence and figuring out who we are as people so we could move forward and work from our mind on over our hearts.
And Pesach Sheni.
Pesach Sheni, right? Pesach Sheni comes there too. That means there's never, it's never too late. We can always do more. Pesach Sheni means the second Pesach, meaning if you missed the first one, you have a way to do the second one. So in other words, again, it's connected to what we're talking about. It's never too late to make the changes. So look into your books. Okay, on page 142. Okay, does everybody have a book? Can you bring some books from over there? Marguerite doesn't have one, and yeah, okay, thank you. Amara, do you have one? Okay, whatever. Or you can have a separate book. Okay, over here on this side. Yeah. Okay, so look, 142. 142. It's a figure 6.1. So again, we're talking now about relationships. The topic for this week on the Rosh Chodesh is the simple truths, and it's to love another. Okay, so we're going to go into love another, and then you'll understand why I introduced this whole idea, this whole concept, before we started. Okay, so here it says, one guy goes, I've got hundreds of Facebook friends I've never met. When I was young, we called them imaginary friends. So in other words, what is this new thing, phenomena now? Facebook friends? They're not really your friends. They're just there. This has nothing to do with relationship whatsoever.
But sometimes, yes.
Huh?
Sometimes with some
Yeah,
people,
sometimes. And then look at the page 143. This is the way to make a relationship. No Facebook around. No, nothing, no internet. We have here 4 people riding in an elevator, right? We have an a city teenager, a suburban soccer mom, a distinguished professor, and a guitar hippie. What happens? The elevator is coming up between the 6th and 7th floor. Boom, it stops. Then what happens? We have these 4 people sitting in that elevator, and what are they going to do? They're waiting for the fire department to get them out. And it's taking an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. You know how long it takes people in the city to get anyone out of anything? Well, what do you think they're discussing? Anybody?
Why?
Life. Like what? What would they be discussing?
Why did it happen?
Ah!
Why did it happen to me?
Okay, now you're talking like a Russian. Right?
Well,
It's interesting. What else would they be discussing? Anybody else?
Well, the hippie would probably start talking about peace and
Or maybe start playing his guitar, right?
yeah.
Start playing his guitar. Everybody, let's do the music. And everybody probably is bored, so they'll sing along, you know? Why not? You're stuck in an elevator. All of a sudden, every single one of those 4 people are talking to each other. Do they have anything in common? A guitar player and a professor and an intellectual and a soccer mom and some teenager. I mean, what do they have in common?
everything. 99% they have in
Everything.
common.
Very good. What did they
With
have
the
in
rare
common?
exception.
Okay, tell us what they have in common.
This is the humanity. Those are
Humanity,
people.
exactly. They
Men
are
and
human
ladies.
beings. Exactly.
Regardless of their profession, of their age.
In other words, everything else goes away. Why? Because whatever's really important all of a sudden shows up. And they need to think what is really important in my life, not what is fakely important in my life. And finally, they start realizing what is actually important. Now let's turn over to the first simple truth, which is text number 1. So this is where we're going to focus in today's class. We're going to focus on text 1, which is page 144.
By the way, Machi, did you experience the power outage?
I did not, but a lot of people did.
The power outage went up to 21st, and that's it.
Well, we were all lucky because I didn't get it either. So,
You're closer
А
to
к тебе не пришло? Тебе не пришло?
We had power outage for 2 hours, from 9 to 11.
In the morning?
in the morning, yeah?
Lake and Arvell, yes.
Lucky you.
Well, sort of close to that.
Okay, so it says like this. Who wants to read text number 1?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Love your fellow as yourself. Rabbi Akiva said this is a great principle in the Torah.
Okay, so it says, number 1, it says, love your fellow as yourself, which is in Leviticus. And then, what did Rabbi Akiva add? This is a great principle in the Torah.
And don't do too.
So now we have a lot of questions over here. Love your fellow as yourself? What is love? Is it a commandment or is it an emotion?
Emotion.
It's an emotion. So how could we command someone to love to begin with? Doesn't make any sense. Then we have here, love your fellow as yourself. How could I love somebody else as I love myself? That's a little hard. Can I feel someone else's problems? Can I feel someone else's pain? That's very hard. And the third question is, what's the self? Who am I? What's the self? What is the self that we're talking about? And then we say, this is a great principle in the Torah. What, this is the whole Torah? Love your fellow as yourself? This is the whole Torah.